The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has frozen an Osun State Government account reportedly used for worker salaries, saying the action followed a valid court order obtained in an ongoing investigation into the alleged diversion of about 11 billion naira in public funds. Coming just days before the governorship election, the move sparked criticism from the Osun government and opposition figures who have questioned its timing. But the EFCC insists that its actions were lawful, investigative, and in line with its mandate to protect public resources. Amid the controversy, President Bola Tinubu has directed the EFCC to return to court to seek a variation of the freezing order, saying while he supports the agency's independence, the timing could create the perception of political interference and undermine confidence in the electoral process. The development has now shifted the conversation beyond Osun, raising broader questions about the balance between anti-corruption enforcement, judicial authority, and electoral integrity. Joining us now to examine the legal and constitutional implications is constitutional lawyer Evans Ufeli. Thanks for joining us this morning. Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Now, the EFCC says that it acted lawfully under a court order. And let's talk about the initial freeze that was put on the account. There's been the argument, some are quoting Section 7 sub 6 of the Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition of the Act that allows a temporary freeze for 72 hours. There are others who say that does not extend to the government accounts. The accounts used to run day-to-day governance. Please, which is the correct position?
Well, the law say any account. The law didn't specify the kind of account that law is applicable to. It says any account, okay. It could be state government account, it could be federal account, it could be whatsoever account. Okay, the reason for that law is to give EFCC an edge to use same for investigation, for the purpose of investigation. The law, the intendment of that law is not for it to be abused, okay, or be used carelessly or recklessly, just like the EFCC displayed in the case under reference. It's just to give the anti-graft agency some edge in terms of investigation so that it is able to act and prevent the rest before it applies outrightly for a court order. Because to get a court order takes time. Okay, that's the essence. And then it should not be overstretched. It should not become a ground for executive recklessness or abuse.
Okay, so in this case, from your perspective or from your analysis, can this be considered abused? Can this, because that's what the governor is saying, is accusing the EFCC of being used to politically bully them and saying that this, there's a recklessness that was applied to this.
Well, that's what the state governor, put forth there, and that is their argument. But the EFCC have said that this particular investigation started in May, either May or March or thereabouts, which is the EFCC's own position. But when you look at both ends, you will notice that the anti-graft agency actually acted ultra-wise, acted in ways that showed that they are either politically motivated or being influenced, or they were trying to do their job, applying abuse to sin, to look like they are working for the incumbent government. That is how it looks like. That is what the optics look like. Okay? And that is what a lot of people are talking about. Because when the EFCC were asked for that question as to, has this been applied to other states, they couldn't really give a good answer. Okay. Is this their operation? Okay. Is this supposed to be done as under the timing, this time when the state is going for an election and all that? Those questions were put forth to the EFCC publicity, as a publicity secretary or thereabouts. But the answers given were not cogent. They were not really logical. So in a sense, it looked like the public outcry that this was concocted basically because of the governor who is in opposition, that possibly that is why the EFCC acted in the way it did, because this is not spread to other states. You talk about activity in an account. or on an account, okay, and then you are not able to substantiate really what was the activity you are referring to, and how does the operation of the state account, how did it become suspicious? Because the truth is that even if politicians, are acting in ways that are suspicious, the action of the anti-graft agency must not be such that will affect the smooth running of the state. Okay, that will thereafter affect the citizens, because the state is a sub-sovereign, is like an appendage of the federation. Okay, so it has to run, it has to be, activities must go on, and anyone that attempts to, in a bid to get at a politician, get at the citizens, yes, would have breached the law itself or abused the power of that office. Okay, so what I think they have done is quite actually really not good enough, because in the long run, this may set a precedent that will affect. Their argument is that the what do you call it? The investigation started a long time ago. Okay, but the question they should answer is, why carry out that fiscal action when you know election is coming? Because in a way, if you look at our laws, anyone or institution that tries to take over, disrupt, okay, either this country or a part of it thereof, is treasonable. That's what they are not looking at, because what they are trying to do is to disrupt that election, okay, by that action. And that is why that intervention came in handy.
Okay. We've looked at how the intervention came in. You've also highlighted the need for proof on why the EFCC had to carry out that action. I think for me, permit me to just quickly speed down the ladder and look at where we are today. 24 hours back, the president calls, and then president directs the EFCC to go back to court and rescind on that decision. Looking at it from a perspective with the bird's eye view, I mean, using the law, what does that mean? How does that impact on the EFCC's earlier decision, hearing from the president?
Well, ordinarily on paper, the EFCC is independent. It's supposed to be independent on the basis of law. Its actions and operations are not supposed to be influenced by the president or the presidency. Okay? Is supposed to act according to the rule of law, the extant law that establishes that the EFCC Act, and then by the Constitution. Okay. But in the case on that reference, the president calling the EFCC to ask them to, go and take certain action. Okay, just how we play governance in Nigeria. Okay, because on paper, we talk about independence. It's like INEC now. You know that a lot of people influence INEC, highly placed people. That's exactly what's playing out here. Because with this action, the president appears like an emperor. He appears like a monarch, okay, which in the days of yore, the words of the monarch is the law. That's exactly what has happened here under a democratic dispensation. Because the president ought not to, okay, have ordered. Because what it means is that you can no longer differentiate the personal action of the EFCC from actions imposed on them. That's what it means. So anytime the EFCC takes any action right now, we cannot tell whether it's coming from them or it's coming from the president or presidency, given what has happened. Because in the past, they do it discreetly. They do it discreetly. A lot of people accuse Obasanjo then for using Ribadu to fight political enemies. It was all on accusations throughout those periods. Nobody could substantiate, because Obasanjo didn't write letter or throw out evidence there to say, okay, yes, we the executive, we are the one controlling them and all that. But in the case on that reference, even though the president's intention might be to quell a looming storm, but in doing that, it has also opened a new vista for conversation. And that vista has made it look like the president can act, call the EFCC and tell them what to do. Okay. So this has put to rest the suspicion that EFCC being influenced or EFCC act based on the impulse of the president or the leadership of the country as against being independent and then fighting economic and financial crime without fear or favor.
But Mr. Ufeli, what would you have recommended the president do? What would you recommend that the president do in times like this? Keep quiet, or would you rather say let the court proceedings take effect? Remember, we have 8 days to the all-important Aguba polls. It's taken a long time to plan. So what would have been your recommendation?
What I think the president ought to have done was when the public cry got so intense and people were people were making statements to say that the president is the one using the EFCC, to fight political opponents in order to take over that state, politically. When that cry came on, the president would have issued a statement to extricate himself from the action of the EFCC. Yes, he would have extricated himself from the action of the EFCC. And then the EFCC would have gotten the message. Yes, they would have gotten the message. Or whatsoever. I don't want to say that the president ought to have done it discreetly. I don't want to say that because whichever way, a controlling an anti-graft agency is not the rule of law. It's not the rule of law. But you know that when the optics are such that things are working in the manner it did, there's a need for the president to speak to the public on the issue. But speaking to the public would have been the right thing to do, as against outrightly calling on the EFCC to act. If the president had called on the DSS, there wouldn't have been any issue, because we know the extant law of the DSS is to provide security for the president or the presidency or for VIPs or politically exposed persons. So calling them to an action wouldn't have been out of place. We ultimately, I'm not condemning what the president did, but I'm saying that the intention might be right. The intention might be to foster or to curtail tension, but the consequences, of that action, it will leave a trail. And if we zero in on that trail, it will be that it has opened a clear new conversation as to who is in charge of the EFCC. Is it the man that sits there in the EFCC building that's in charge, or the president or the presidency? Who exactly is in charge? That is what the president action, that's the question the president action has opened. And the answer to that is that the person who sits there as the EFCC chairman isn't actually the chairman or chairperson from what has happened so far. And so if you interrogate it from that angle, then you will be caused with the action.
Absolutely.
But there are other schools of thought who say that the president did the right thing to have called the institution. That what he did was to call the institution to order. But then you need to know that that institution is actually independent and cannot be called to order in that manner. The right institution that could have called the EFCC to order is the court. And that is if the state had finally gone to court and the matter ended, then the court can make a pronouncement.
Mr. Ufeli, let's just go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more questions regarding this latest development. Do stay with us. Welcome back. We're still looking at the Osun State elections, build up 8 days to go, and a recent statement made by Mr. President, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, directing the EFCC to look inwards and talking about why it is wrong concerning the timing of the elections. Our guest is a barrister who joins us. Thank you so much for staying here, Barrister Felix Ufeli. Before the break,
Yes.
we're looking at some of the major conversations surrounding the decision, how it could have been done and how you thought it should have actually been done by the president. I mean, spot-on analysis, whether you like it or not. But, Benga, I'm sure Benga has more questions regarding this.
Mr. Ufeli, from what you've said and your analysis this morning, it just we've opened Pandora's box with the president's action, and many are wondering if it does set a dangerous precedent of interference in government agencies that should be typically independent, going by the Act of Parliament that set them up. Are these fears, are they healthy fears, or people are just panicking when they say, you know, if Mr. President can intervene in this EFCC matter, what's stopping him from intervening in INEC and other government agencies that are supposed to be independent?
Well, you know, in this country, so many times when we are confronted with situations, you know, politicians have a way of setting the law aside to do whatever they want to do. That's why you see they will tell you go to court. Okay, anytime a politician is telling you go to court, he has set the law aside to do whatever he wants to do. Okay, so the fears are genuine, okay, that institutions should be made to be independent. We need strong institutions, as someone has said in the past. Okay, because what the president did now is a demonstration of a strong entity, a strong person, as against a strong institution. Okay, and that is what...
Sorry to interrupt you here, Mr. Ufeli. Can we have strong institutions if the president is the one making the appointment of the chairperson of these institutions? If it were otherwise, if it wasn't the president making the appointments, would that make them stronger in a sense?
Even where the president makes the appointment, okay, you can still have the strong institution if the leaders of those institutions actually know the essence of that institution, or they know the purpose of the institution. Okay, in the United States, where we borrow this democracy from, the president make some of these appointments. Okay, even though there are certain institutions that emerge through other means, either their leaders emerge through seniority or through ranking and all that. But you see how they go against the president's decision when it's not right. You know, even governors of states, okay, and all that. You see how, because the country has to come first. This president will come and go, the country will remain. So if we need to build strong institutions, even if you are appointed by the president, okay, if the president asks you to do something, you could refer the president to the extant law. Okay, I know that will mean automatic sack under our dispensation. Okay, because
how dare you question the president?
Yes, okay, because we claim that we are practicing democracy. We are not practicing. What we're actually practicing is, a monarchy. Our governors are regional monarchies, and the president is the central monarch. That is what we are practicing. Because democracy is not really soaked in our system. It's still very alien to us. Okay, and that is why we cannot put the country first. Okay, we have to consider so many options, even in the presence of our law, even when the laws are clear enough. Okay, we still set the laws aside and do the wrong thing. But you see, this country cannot grow if we don't adopt strong institutions, okay, that will look at the letters of the law and follow them to their final conclusion. If we rely on this thing that's going on, it will be difficult for us to, okay, look at INEC, for example. You see the accusation that came on INEC when, during the primaries, or the ADC, all of them, NDC and all that. You saw the level of tension that followed that, where it is said that INEC has been influenced by the incumbent government. Okay? So, in order to put all those issues to rest, this democracy must grow. We must come together and decide what we want to do, whether we want our institution to define democracy for us or whether we want individuals to define it. Okay, if truly the institutions are supposed to define democratic dispensation, then let's allow those institutions to define it. And this issue of trying to act in a way that to please the president or to, either eye service or just the police do it a lot. When they are with, when you see the policemen, when they are with a VIP, if you see the way they treat the citizens, under the cover of securing the VIP, even when the VIP did not send them to do some of these things, you see them acting in ways that this is this slave-master relationship that we exhibit. It's not just even the leaders, even individual citizens, okay, in small compound. The person who have a generator is actually the lord of the compound, okay? The ones that don't have generator are nobody. Even in our social circle, when you have little money, then you start to oppress every other person around you. Okay, so it's not just a leadership thing. It's about the way we think. It's about our makeup, okay? That once you are a little bit ahead of anybody, therefore, they are non-entities. Okay, you are the only one that can. We spread it across. Politicians enhance it. It was in this country that somebody stood before a jet to stop the jet from taking off. Okay, and you hear people say, do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? In a country where people are living less than $1 per day, okay, and you hear all those kind of things, the pride in poverty and all that. So it's a lot. It's a lot. If we want to have a system that was not just a politician, we have to exfoliate ourselves from this pride, this unnecessary high-handedness on one another. We have to come to a resolution. We have to even come to that awareness that we're practicing democracy and make it work. Okay, democracy has to work, and it will work. It will work in a way that our actions and inactions must reflect the law. Until we do that, we will not be able to enhance democracy truly. There's so much to talk about this in the context of what had just happened. This has nothing to do with just the president. If you spread it forth, you'll find how each and every one of us are guilty of things like this. When somebody's arrested, instead of him to go and answer the charges, he would get his phone and call his brother that's in Abuja to call the IG so that they can have stuff landing in the face of an offense and all that. So you have to know somebody that knows somebody for you to be able to get away with wrongdoing. You break traffic rules. You don't want to answer to the charges. You don't want to face the consequences. You want to call somebody in Abuja to help you call the FRC and not to call whoever is in charge so that you can escape being held accountable. That lack of accountability is the reason Nigeria isn't growing. People don't want to be accountable, even in family circles. People don't, in business, people don't want to set up a business in Nigeria and attempt to travel out for 2 months. Mm-hmm. Before you come back, you will see that the business has been wrecked down because people don't want to be accountable and they want a country to change. So it's a contradiction. Nigeria cannot change in the absence of accountability.
Okay.
So everybody has to be held accountable to what we are doing for us to project a country that works.
All right. We have a media advisor to former Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, Mr. Paul Ibe, joining us. Unfortunately, we can't get his video, but he joins us via phone call. Good morning, Mr. Paul Ibe. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much, and sorry for the hassles this morning. But let's quickly go into it. I mean, I'm sure you've heard the conversation so far with a barrister who's joined us. What's your take on what we're seeing here? First off, the EFCC pronounces that they're going to freeze the account. They go ahead and do so. And just a few hours ago, the president speaks and says it's undemocratic. Isn't it the right thing and the wisest thing that the president has done?
There's nothing wise about the action of the president. Recall that last week, the president met with the bishops, conference of Nigeria, and following that meeting, revelations were made by Nikon, Archbishop Nikon, that the president said that all is fair in politics. All cannot be fair in politics in an election that will be conducted by INEC, but under the dispensation of President Bola Tinubu. What we have seen, or what we saw with the Osun State situation, is a manifestation of all is fair, because Onaiko did indicate that the conclusion that they arrived following that meeting was that President Bola Tinubu was prepared to win at all costs. And that's what that's what underpins this shameless action of the president in Osun State. The EFCC said it has a court order to carry out its action. So a presidential directive is overriding a court order. What message does that send to you? It shows clearly, that this president is a lawless person. He does not follow, he doesn't abide by law and due process. He should not have. I mean, he says he's embarrassed, by what happened. But we are, as Nigerians, we are very embarrassed, by the fact that, this president, keeps, advancing his interest, keeps doing things, keeps using the institution of states for political end. Clearly, I mean, it is so embarrassing that on the eve of an election in Osun State, the account of the state government, is been frozen. I mean, why? The states are free. We are running a federation. The states are supposed to be free to run their affairs. Here in the Federal Capital Territory, billions of money are being paid for projects. Has anybody taken a look at that? In Lagos and and elsewhere. I mean, this is clearly, part of the strategy of this presidency, of this president and the APC-led administration to weaken. They are weaponizing, all of these things, and it's so shameful and so embarrassing. And so there is no justification for, first of all, the action of the EFCC to freeze the accounts of Osun State on the eve of the election. Ekiti State had its own elections recently. Nobody froze the accounts of the Ekiti State government merely because Ekiti State, is an APC, is an APC state. I mean, that is exactly what this is all about. So all of this is an afterthought. It is hogwash for the president to say that he's embarrassed, by what has happened. Is he, it means that he's not in control of his government. He doesn't know what is going on. I mean, that lends credence to the fact maybe there are cabals, within this government that are, taking decisions, actions, on behalf of, this president.
Now, Mr. Paul Ibe, staying with you, I haven't listened to your analysis. What guardrails exist to prevent this sort of actions from happening and overreach from institutions without needing Mr. President to call them to order? And what sort of dangers are we looking at if this sort of precedent is set?
Listen, this president has, in his bid, in his quest for state capture, he has weakened all of the institutions. And all of those institutions are now standing, so to say, on his so-called mandate. Whether it's the EFCC or the ICPC, whether it's the police, the security agencies, even a section of the, of the judiciary. This has been the argument. I mean, we have been, shouting ourselves hoarse, over this, over the situation that the opposition is, in Nigeria. The weaponization of state institutions, for political end. Under the Tinubu administration, there will be no let-up. There will be no, he's going to continue because, he's focused on winning the election, even when he has nothing when he has nothing to show for the first 4 years that he has been handed over. He wants to, railroad, coerce, intimidate, and and all of that. So it's about institutions. It's about the independence of the institutions. With this presidential directive, I mean, I wish to say, and that what has happened is that the independence, any semblance of independence that the EFCC had, has been thrown overboard. There is no independence because you can see clearly that the president is, using these institutions as a yo-yo. He's manipulating, he's manipulating these institutions. Like I said, how do you explain a situation where an agency got a court order to freeze account, and by mere executive directive, the president has overturned, what they have done? Okay, the question is, why doesn't he go ahead and give a directive so that, Nasir El-Rufai, a chieftain of the ADC and former governor of Kaduna State can also be, freed. As you and I speak today, it's 173 days that Nasir El-Rufai has been in detention, having been detained on February 16th, this year. And what was it that he did that somebody like Yaya Bello, who is who is all over the place preparing for an election, and also a former governor, one of the in the Niger Delta states, and a couple of other people. So why is all of this things? Why are they targeted? At the opposition parties. Even as you and I are speaking, the so-called ecological fund, which was the reason why the EFCC said it moved against, Osun State and sealed, froze its accounts. Out of 36 states, 27 of those states have not turned in a report of how they have used, the funds, the ecological, ecology funds. So the question is, why Osun State, and why on the eve of the governorship election, a key election? The reason is that President Bola Tinubu and his ruling APC party want to win at all costs. Is that what democracy is all about? No, this is dictatorship, and it looks like we are back to the Abacha days. This is a civilian, dictatorship, and what meaning Nigeria need to take note of what is happening. So that, because what is happening is that by his actions or on his inactions, this president is trying to precipitate a crisis, in this country. And that would be unfortunate, considering the size of Nigeria. And if anything happens in this country, it's going to have implications for the West African sub-region. So the international community needs to take note of what is happening in Nigeria. It's a dangerous thing, and it should not be allowed to, to fester further than it is. This president is using all the institutions of state, bar none, to advance his political, interest.
All right. I mean, that's your opinion, as you've said. But we'll go on a quick break. When we come back, Mr. Felix, I'd like us to look at how EFCC can respond at this point. Just quickly, Paul has mentioned some of the key things linking it to the political state. But permit me to let's just go on a quick break first. When we come back, we'll look at more aspects into this story before we wrap it up. Welcome back. All right, still looking at the recent case concerning Osun State. Our guest is still pretty much here with us. Mr. Paul Ibe is with us, joining us via phone call. And then we have Barrister Ufeli, who's joining us. And we have another guest who'll be joining us pretty much later on. But let me come back to you, Mr. Ufeli. The EFCC boss, let's look at how can he now prove the independency of the body, the EFCC itself? How can he prove that the body is independent following this recent call from Mr. President?
Well, it's up to him. Even when you have a court order, nothing in the law says that you must use the court order. Okay, the court is not going to compel you to use it by all means. Okay, so it's up to the EFCC boss to decide what he wants to do, whether he wants to continue with the case despite the president's intervention, okay, or he wants to yield to the president's call, to stop it. But whichever way you look at it, whichever way the EFCC chairman goes, okay, he will still be reprimanded, okay, because the action he took ab initio, okay, is so wrong that you cannot even ameliorate the situation right now. Because if he says he's not going to act based on the president's intervention, that could put him in trouble. Okay, then that could put him in trouble. And if he decides to stop at this point, that will also mean that the institution is not independent. Okay, so that is why an anti-graft agency of that repute ought to have count the cost of the action, okay? Because people must react, you understand? Especially under a government that have not really performed. But this government has not performed. So every action and every step and every move made is judged on the basis of the performance of this government. Okay, people will interrogate whatever they do and bring them under scrutiny. Okay, so I think that the EFCC is actually trapped right now. Okay, because whatever action they take, either for or against, is going to be adjudged as one that is inappropriate. So it's up to them to decide which way they want to go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ufeli. Now, back to you, Mr. Paul Ibe. Looking at this whole controversial episode that has happened, and looking at the institution of the EFCC, what Mr. President has literally done is an indictment on the leadership of the EFCC boss. Is his position still tenable? And now that Mr. President has also said and given direct orders to the EFCC, does this make this a first instance, or does it open the Pandora's box? And, maybe there has been instances where, the EFCC has been doing the bidding of the president and the executive. So at this point, should the EFCC boss remain in his position, or should he tender his resignation? Because for the number one citizen of the land to call you out in this order should mean a lot.
If the president says that that he was unaware of the situation in Osun, well, what that suggests to me is that the EFCC, and its chairman are taking a cue, from the president, because every action, nearly all of the actions of this president has been predicated on politics. The president has focused more on politics, than governance, and that is why he would tell, the bishops who came visiting that all, is fair in politics. He did not spend time telling them how, he's going to ameliorate, the economic, crisis situation, the insecurity and all of that. He was focused on politics. And so I'm tempted, conclude that the chairman of the EFCC and his, agency were simply taking a cue, from this president. Like I said earlier, why doesn't this same president also give a directive that Nasir El-Rufai, who has been in detention for 173 days, why doesn't he give a directive that he should also be released? Because the question is, what is it that he has done that that leaders, of the ruling party, who are junketing all of the place, who are free to contest election, what is it that they have done? You can see clearly that there is no level playing field. It's all about politics, for this president. He has succeeded in destroying, this institution. As we speak, nobody can tell me, and Nigerians, discerning Nigerians, that this, EFCC, gives equal opportunity, that that it investigates and prosecutes people not on account of their political, on which side of the political divide, they stand, that they are. It is clearly targeted at the opposition. There is no mistake about it. The president is simply trying, by his action, he's trying to change the narrative. He's trying to change the narrative so that it appears that, he listens, okay, he's democratic. This president is not in any way a Democrat. If he is, like I said, he would not upturn, he would not, by a mere directive, presidential directive, ask the EFCC whether the EFCC obtained the EFCC is at liberty to seek for court, for a court order. It has done that. So why didn't this president allow that process to play out? Why must he interfere in this process? And because he has interfered in this process, it means clearly that he is interfering in all of the processes, whether it's the ICPC, whether it's the EFCC, and that is why he will continue to keep Nasir Rufai, in detention, because of the fact that he parted ways with him politically, because he decided to chart a new direction. So what are we talking about?
Okay.
All right. Let's take the conversation a slightly different direction. In the interest of fairness, we do have an APC chieftain who's joining us as well via phone call. We have Mr. Akim Akintayo, who's a party chieftain with the APC. He's also a public affairs analyst. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Akintayo. Your party has been in the eye of the storm. Your party has been accused of intimidating the Accord Party. Governor Adeleke has argued that the APC, rather, is behind a lot of their woes, and some members of his party have also accused the president. How do you respond to the accusations leveled against the APC in terms of it being certain stumbling blocks for the Accord Party in Osun State?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me. I've heard some part of the narration from my brother from the ADC, Mr. Paul, who's my very good senior brother. I for one, I believe this orchestration or this political drama that is going on in Osun State, as per the EFCC drama, was orchestrated by the Accord Party in cahoots with ADC. There are intelligence reports that this thing it managed to make the.
Are you there?
Hello, Mr. Akintayo. We're struggling to get your audio. Are you still with us?
I think we've lost connection with Mr. Akintayo, but let's see how we.
Okay, yes.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Akintayo, we lost connection with you for a bit. If you can please pick up. The last thing we heard you say was this was stage managed. If you can pick up from there, we'd appreciate that.
Yeah, it was actually stage managed by the ADC. ADC in cahoots with Accord.
And how?
In order to paint
How?
APC, yes.
How? Can you tell
My
us
brother,
how?
we're all in politics. We're all in politics. We know all these things.
You're not making the allegations, so the onus of proof is on you. That's why we are asking, how did they state manage it?
The same way they allege that the president is involved or he interfered in the process of detaining or interrogation of El-Rufai, as well as blocking the state allocation of Osun. These were allegations made by ADC and Accord. And I'm telling you from another intelligence report that this brouhaha was stage managed in order to demarket APC. Yes, they may be in cahoots with some people who claim to be APC, but they are not APC. Because APC will not want to jeopardize our victory. Yes, this action, maybe by EFCC might have give or will give the Accord some sort of sympathy. Yes, but I can tell you if you are a true APC person, APC will not, because we know the gravity of the election that is coming forth, and we are focused on winning the election. So there are people who we want to partner with people within the system to demarket APC, and that's what Accord and ADC. That's why you see my brother, Mr. Paul, is gloating on national TV to tell the Nigerians falsely that APC or the president orchestrated this or manipulated this in order to scuttle the system or scuttle the election. It would not.
Mr. Akintayo, another criticism leveled against the president regarding this case is the fact that he asked the EFCC to lift up the freeze on the accounts of the Osun State Government. And many have termed this intermeddling with what is meant to be an independent agency, saying that if the president could have asked them to unfreeze, that means or gives credence to the argument that the president was involved and asked the account to be freezed in the first place. How do you respond to this?
I've even answered the question before you even asked. The point is the president, who we know is a true Democrat, he went through the process of through democratic process to become a governor, and now the president, without harassing or jeopardizing the system that brought him to power. He will not, as president of the country, want to intimidate the opposition from participating in a transparent process. He will not. And he said it even when the bishops came around to visit him. I said, look, he will not help the opposition. And when you talk about interference, the president saw it statemently. He did a statemently action by making sure to direct EFCC to undo the process, because it is anti-democratic to block a state account. What about even the majority of Osun people that will suffer because of that action? He's been a statesman. If he's a dictator or somebody that wants to manipulate the process to favor his party, he wouldn't have said anything. So in terms of interference, I don't think the president is interfering. The president is guiding the EFCC to do the right thing, which is don't interfere in democratic process, ongoing process that will bring that is just about to conduct an election in coming days. So the president is actually not interfering. The president is making sure everybody, competes in a fair and transparent democratic process.
Okay, Mr. Akintayo, thank you. Let me go back to Paul Ibe if he wants to respond to your statement before we go to Mr. Ufeli.
Every day, every morning, you think that you've had the worst. Under this Tinubu administration. The Accord Party in cahoots with the EFCC, that is fantabulous, I've been very restrained about calling for either the resignation or the sack of the EFCC, because, if it is confirmed that the EFCC chairman and his agency, they are in cahoots, with the Accord Party, the EFCC, chairman is an appointee of the president. So the question is, why wouldn't the president sack him? Why shouldn't the president sack the EFCC chairman? What my brother is saying is hogwash. There's no foundation, to it. The truth of the matter is that this president has been interfering in processes, continues to interfere, and the EFCC is just a manifestation. Of course, it is because of the timing of it on the eve of the Osun State election that this president, is clearly trying to win at all costs. We have been told about that. Before the freezing of the account, the signal came when he met with, the bishops, like I said, and he told them all that all is fair, in politics, meaning that he is prepared to win at all costs. And I recall what former governor of Rivers State and the vice presidential candidate of the ADC asked on an interview on one of the TV networks, and he said if all is fair in politics, it means that they can go to a polling unit and shoot somebody, and there should be no consequences for that, since all, by the summation of the president, is fair, in politics. I think we should stop trying to, spin, all of this, this. And that also brings me to the other issue, of the release of the so-called, report of the ICPC over the Baja Gate. That's the timing also. It was done yesterday to deflect on on two things. One, the bishop, the meeting with the bishop got out of hand, and the president deployed all of his aides to go about, abusing and insulting, men of conscience, people who have over the decades continue to be the conscience of this nation. And then the issue of the Osun State district, that, from my own, reading, is exactly why the report of the ICPC was released yesterday. And they're always in this game of playing games and thinking that Nigerians are not smart.
All right. I don't know if we have Mr. Ufeli still on the call.
Just to wrap things up.
Well, let's just wrap things up. You've heard both sides of the argument. Mr. Akintayo has said that the ADC is in cahoot with the Accord Party to make the APC look bad. You've heard Mr. Ibe's response. Let's get your final thoughts on this.
Can I say something, please, before you go?
Okay, as quickly, Mr. Akintayo, because we recall that you have to be...
Yeah, just okay. First of all, look at the man that was claimed to be a fake DG of a fake agency. If you look at his background, this man was once a time allegedly to have worked for Accord Party. He was a special advisor to the governor of Osun State. This guy rigmarolled himself and find himself within Abuja and corridors of power to be claiming what he is not. That's to show that ADC and the opposition will always look for a way to infiltrate the system in order to embarrass the government.
But that's a different conversation. But however, the embattled DG of the PFIPC, that's a different conversation entirely. If we say he was a member of the Accord Party, last time we checked as journalists, we also need to put pen to paper and also make corrections immediately. Accord Party is different from the ADC. Accord Party is different from the
opposition.
NDC.
They are all opposition.
Yeah, but
they work hand in hand.
Before the Osun State governor moved to Accord Party, he was in PDP. He never knew the man. The man was in Accord. So I hope, I'm just trying to make sure that we're not trying to move away from the point in focus. I'm
just telling you my own background check on how the opposition operates. What happened in Osun State, the freezing of account was orchestrated by the opposition in order to make the president look as if it's intimidating the opposition to give advantage to APC. That's like my final take.
Is the EFCC boss a member of the Accord Party?
Is he answerable to?
I just want to ask.
See, the point is that they can go to any court to go either to procure a judgment, just like the fake DG did.
No, you've not answered my question. Is the EFCC boss? Sorry to buzz. I'm so sorry. Because we are running out of time.
Just 1 minute, sir. 1 minute, sir. Just like the fake DG went around, procured an appointment, and later on it backfired. It's the same way opposition is looking for because they are saying that we are having a momentum.
Mr.
Both at Osun State, in Osun State, and at the federal, in the run-up to the next general election, they know that we don't have opposition. They know we are coasting home to victory. So they will do all kinds of things because they have to team up together. They have to find a way to manufacture all kinds of tricks to make us look bad. Well, we are not. We are focused, and by the grace of God, we win the election.
Kintayo, I'm sorry we're out of time, but what you are saying, except you say that the EFCC boss is partisan, is a politician, and he belongs to a political party. Because I don't see
somebody can procure a judgment and give it to him, give the EFCC to comply. They do it. They do it.
Sorry,
Opposition knows what they are doing.
I'm sorry, we're out of time. Mr. Ufeli, please go ahead. I mean, we don't want to go down this lane, please. Mr. Ufeli.
What the APC man is saying in this show is quite improbable. With due respect to him, the Accord Party wouldn't have employed the services of the EFCC to carry out what is going on. That cannot be true. So I think we should be very clear and careful with our expression, because he has indicted the EFCC right here, okay, that the EFCC is working for the Accord Party. That's exactly what he's saying by implication. And that couldn't have been true, okay? Whatever action has been taken by the EFCC, it's only them that can state who is influencing them or whether they're acting on their own volition. And so this matter has to be properly discussed and dealt with.
Thank you so much, and I wish we do have the time to do so. Mr. Polibe, thank you for your time. Unfortunately, we're out of time, and apologies for the hassles. We look forward to have you join us again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kintayo, Akima Kintayo, for joining us this morning as well.
And thank you so much, Mr. Ufeli.
Thank you. God bless you.
Very interesting conversation. All right.